Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live presentation entitled Leverage CDAP for Your Agencies and Clients. So I'd like to introduce today's speakers. We have Sean Leonard, CEO here at Active Demand. Sean is dedicated to helping business with advanced marketing strategies, marketing automation technology, sales and marketing expertise that is simple, effective, and affordable. As an entrepreneur, Sean has more than 25 years of successful experience launching, owning, operating, and growing businesses. And we also have our co-presenter, Lane Smith, CEO at Digital Maturity Advisors. Lane helps solution providers adopt disruptive strategies to grow their business, increase their profits, and ultimately make life better for themselves. And with that, I will hand things over to Lane.
Well, thanks very much for the intro. Happy to be here today talking about the CDAP program. And we're going to cover three general topics. First off, what is the CDAP opportunity? And then we're going to spend some time on the challenges that we're seeing in the market right now, and then ultimately how we can help you with this program. And it is a fantastic opportunity. So just a quick disclaimer, we're not affiliated with the government. We have been working with the CDAP program since it was launched in March, and are quite familiar with all aspects of it, and we've got many of our members are advisors already, and so as we get through, you'll learn a little bit more about how we can help. So first off, just to kind of set the stage of what the heck we're talking about here, the Canadian Digital Adoption Program is really talking about digital transformation, this concept of a digital transformation in small businesses. And what we've seen in the market, so we've been around for quite a few years now, before the CDAP program came about, and we have actually technology backgrounds. And what we saw in the SMB space was this lack of digital advisors to help business owners navigate technologies that can help grow their businesses. And when you look at who are advising these small business owners, you have the marketing companies, you have business consultants and technology consultants, and obviously financial and various other, and typically they're talking to their technology consultant. But the challenge is for the majority of them in the market, they're just kind of keeping the lights on. So they're keeping technology running for the business owner, but they're not necessarily saying, hey, you ought to look at this marketing and automation platform, or really should start looking at how you can move to more, e-commerce or whatever that might be. And so there's this growing gap that we see in the SMB space where business owners are just really randomly implementing technology, ad hoc. And so that's where this digital advisor comes into play, where they can sit at the table, so to speak, with the executive team and help them make the right type of IT decisions. So in the past, without this role in place, and I've seen it all the time coming from the IT side, we would call it shadow IT was the term. And what I'm referring to here is a good example where you've got a new VP comes into a business, say a VP of marketing. They had used a marketing automation platform in the past, HubSpot or whatever it might be, Active Demand, any type of marketing automation. They decide, hey, we want to implement this. They've got a budget, right, approved already, so they go ahead and implement this technology, and then it comes around to actually work with the IT team. They've spent the money talking to the IT team, and the IT team says, well, geez, we've already got, Salesforce.com or whatever. We already have another tool in place that provides those same type of services. Why didn't you guys look into that? And so what happens is, these companies are spending a lot of money and not receiving the ROI they want on this technology, and ultimately not able to, benefit, right? If you're not getting that ROI from that spend, you're not growing your business the way you should be. And so the concept of this digital advisor is to kind of put that wall up between the executive team and any net new technology, whereas that advisor is going to say, okay, let's look at the company as a whole. Where do we want to go? What's our direction? What's our future? What's our business strategy? And then they're going to pull in the different technologies that are going to truly help that business grow. Now, when you're looking at the CDAP program as a whole, the challenge for the CDAP program is there's not a lot of business advisors in this space that can really help across the board, right? You have a focus. You're focused on marketing, right? So when you come into a client and you do your assessment, the assessment is 100% focused on that marketing concept, and that's not really what the CDAP program is about. Again, the CDAP program is, let's look at the company as a whole. So then your challenge is, how do you do this as a marketing firm, or as a financial firm, or a internal IT or external IT? How are you going to actually pull it off? And that's where we help, because we've got a platform that we can take any advisor, whether they're marketing or finance or whatever that might be, and provide a framework and process and tools to deliver these services. So, and by the way, I think Eric mentions you can ask questions. Please feel free to interrupt, and happy to jump on and answer questions throughout the time. So let's talk about the opportunity. There's really two opportunities. The first one is for your customers, and if you search, Canada Digital Adoption Program, this is the landing page for their site. You'll take a look at your Boost Your Technology, and this is the program that's specific for the SMBs. And for you as advisors, your opportunity is to become an approved digital advisor. And so basically, at very high level, and we'll go into much more detail here, is the government has money set aside to help small businesses with their digital adoption, digital transformation. The way that they've structured it is, if they want to receive the money, they've got to work with an approved advisor. And the reason for this is because, that wagon wheel I just showed, they want advisors that can provide a great, look at the company as a whole. And again, that's a challenge, right? Because there's not that many advisors that can actually do that in the space. And so that's where digital maturity advisors comes into play. So I'll dive in a little bit here on what the actual opportunity is. So there's about $4 billion in funding. It was approved in the 2021 budget, launched March 3rd of 2022. And so we've got a few years to spend this money. And it's broken into two different pieces. First off, and the opportunity for you is in consulting revenue. The program is offering $1.6 billion in grants to hire an approved advisor to develop these digital adoption plans. And then on the other side, once the plans have been developed, the customers are then eligible for up to $100,000 in interest-free loans to implement these plans. So if we go back to that sort of wagon wheel that I mentioned, and let's say you come in to a customer and you're going to work on developing a plan. So you're going to identify the government wants to see at least 3 different solutions that you identify. So it might be that they need a new website and new marketing. They need a new e-commerce solution. Because of that, you're going to recommend that they look at a new finance package that integrates with e-commerce better. And then ultimately, they're going to need to shore up their network security. So they need to do a security assessment and add more layers of security there. So that would all be identified in this plan. that the government's going to pay this grant for. Now, then the implementation side is where then they would then execute on the digital marketing, the e-commerce, the finance system, and the cybersecurity. Now that's what customers are excited about. You know, they're not necessarily excited about this plan, but you know, you've been talking to that prospect, they really want to do, you know, the services you guys provide, don't have the budget for it. Well, here's a great way to get that budget. Not only can you develop this great plan for them, but then on the implementation side, they've got this interest-free money, which is pretty hard to come by these days, especially with interest rates skyrocketing everywhere, right? So it's a really unique opportunity for you guys to not only generate this consulting revenue up front, and what I've found is so many advisors in the SMB space are leaving money on the table because they're going in and doing consulting for a customer basically for free, and you're calling it pre-sales, and going in and spending all this time to create a proposal for a customer that really should be billable consulting time. And I know most of you on the call are thinking, well, we're not consultants. We're here, you know, our goal is recurring revenue or whatever that might be. But anytime you've got a talented team working on a client that you're not billing them for is lost opportunity. So here's a great way to take advantage of that. And then moving forward, even once this program is done, you know, you've adjusted your sales process to really quickly weed out the folks that aren't willing to pay for your expertise. And so now you've adjusted your business model to continually see that type of revenue and income at the front of your sales. So, and then ultimately, just to round out this slide here, if you do the math, there's funding for about 35,000 SMEs. So as of right now, there's about 320 or so approved advisors. So you can imagine how many more advisors are going to need to be approved to actually spend this money in the next couple of years. All right, so that's the opportunity. You'll hear more about the opportunity here as we go through, but let's talk about some of the challenges. Oops, what happened there? Okay, so becoming an advisor, and this is right off the website here, but there's really these 6 main points. And the way that the government looks at advisors for approving them is they look at an individual advisor within the organization. So that individual needs to have you know, a secondary degree or a third-party certification. So, you know, an MBA or master's in, you know, technology or marketing or whatever that might be, or a certification. And so we actually have a certification. So we have run across some folks that don't have this in their organization, and we have a certification program that helps. They have to have 5 years experience. And again, this is the individual. So let's say you started your agency, your firm a year ago or 2 years ago. That's fine, because they're looking at your individual experience. And then what kind of experience do you need to have? Obviously, experience in digital, you know, business strategies, technology solutions, and solution selection. Now, you might not have called it digital solutions in the past, but again, this is sort of new thing. We're talking digital transformation, digital adoption, and rolling in all things technology. And then ultimately a compliant process. And this is where a lot of folks have a challenge, because again, they're not used to developing a plan that looks at everything. And this is where we can help once more. So there is another challenge right now is the government had so much interest in this program. They've had several thousand people apply to digital advisors, and they've got quite a big backlog and so what they've done is they've gated the entries, and as of the 21st, they've basically put on hold any applications that are outside of these territories. Now, the good news is we're actually an approved advisor, so if you are interested and you're not in one of those territories, we can help you with that, with the program. regardless of your status. And if you're interested in that, we can talk offline. So, all right. So the client journey is not really a challenge, but just want to give you guys some understanding of the client eligibility requirements. So, all right. So first off, very simple for eligibility. They need to be, incorporated in Canada, a for-profit business. So this removes any nonprofit businesses. Have between 1 to 499 employees, which, as you can imagine, that's pretty darn broad. It can be, a $500,000 business up to, 10, 15, 20, 30 million dollar organization. So pretty broad eligibility requirements, and that's really it. So there's no tests they have to perform. As long as they meet these requirements, they're good to go. Now, the grant money, let me explain that a little bit. So the government's going to cover up to 90% of eligible costs of retaining the services of a digital advisor, so an approved advisor, up to $15,000. Now, this is just to develop a digital adoption plan, not any implementation. Okay, so if you look at that $15,000 to develop a plan, plans are taking 30 to 50 hours to develop. That's about a $350 an hour bill rate. So it's a really good consulting income. And think about that, especially if you've been putting 15, 20 hours into proposals for customers, you can leverage, instead of doing that, leverage the CDAP program, get paid for all that time. Okay. Once the plan is approved, again, they can get a loan up to $100,000, 0% interest, 5-year term with a 12 months capital postponement. So really total of 6 years. And then they can even wait up to a year to apply for this loan after they've received the funds for the grant. So kind of to a different way of showing you that previous slide here, just what is this journey? The customer, let's say you talk to a customer or a prospect, introduce them to the CDAP plan, let them know that you're either an approved advisor or working on becoming approved and you'd like to work with them. They simply go up to the website, they fill out their information, provided they're willing to share their CRA information. The approval process happens very quickly. It's all integrated now, and they'll be approved as long as they meet those eligibility requirements. They have a digital maturity assessment that they take online that the government's put together. Our process is we go in and we do another guided assessment, because what we found here is a lot of the customers don't even know how to answer the questions. So that's something that we tell our prospects, and just, hey, go through, answer to the best of your knowledge. We're going to run through that again anyway. Once they get approved, they gain access to a marketplace where they can see all the approved advisors, though ideally, in your case, it's already a customer of yours or a prospect. So they would then basically engage with you. And the engagement it's a typical engagement. However you normally engage with a customer, do you send them a proposal? Do you send them an invoice? Do you charge them, 25% up front, 50% up front? However you normally go about working with customers, that's how you're going to do it here. Because the government is not paying you, they're paying them. And in fact, what they're doing is they're really refunding them. So the idea is the customer pays you for the services. Once they've paid you, once you've delivered a CDAP plan that's compliant with what the government wants to see, they submit that up to the government. The government reviews the plan, they reviews your invoicing, and provided everything checks the right boxes, they'll go ahead and issue the grant funds, which is again up to $15,000 or 90% of that total cost for developing a plan. So if you do the math, you can charge, 16.5 for the plan, and then the customer is going to spend 1,500 or so on that, and then the government will reimburse them for the remaining amount. And then again, once that plan's done, they can implement. Now, the implementation side does not need to be with an approved advisor. It be, you're the advisor developing that plan, and when it comes time for them to implement, they might work with you for the marketing. You might introduce them to a financial person that you've got in your network of referrals, right? Or finance company, or an IT company, or an ERP specialist, or whatever it might be. And that implementation side, again, the government's not looking at how that money's spent so much as, is it following the plan, and are they spending the money on the solutions identified in that plan? All right, so here's a challenge that we see right now is, we're talking to folks all the time right now, and we're starting to get companies coming to us saying, hey, I had a customer mentioned the CDAP program to me. I never heard about it. Someone was trying to, an approved advisor was trying to sell them this service. And so if you think about that, doesn't sound like such a challenge, but the challenge here is that you're used to competing with other, like-minded businesses, right? If you're a marketing agency, you're used to competing against other marketing agencies. You're not used to competing against business consultants or IT providers or financial consultants. And what's going on with this program is these folks are all advisors, and they're going out and talking to, their customers and their prospects are likely your customers right now. And so the challenge for you is, if you don't take a serious look at this, one of your competitors is, or even not a competitor that you normally think of as a competitor, they're going to go in, they're going to approach that customer, they're going to sell this customer on the CDAP concept, they're going to get the grant money. But worse is, now they're in the driver's seat as that digital advisor for that customer. And so if you have any digital technologies in that customer, now you've got somebody else making the recommendations for that customer. And that's a real, I think, truly the kind of the threat here, is that you could potentially lose good customers to somebody else just because of this grant money and the way that they can leverage the loans. All right. So here's, and this is not so much a challenge, but it's more of just education for you guys. Basically, what the government wants to see is that the plans are vendor agnostic, and they say digital advisors are vendor agnostic, but the reality is most advisors in the SMB space are aligned with specific vendors, and that's fine. What's important, though, is when you develop a digital adoption plan, you're not specifying vendors, rather you're specifying solutions. So the customer needs, to implement better SEO management. So rather than saying, okay, we're going to implement SEO management, we're using this particular product, the plan is going to be, okay, here, the customer needs SEO. Here's why they need it. Here's the minimum requirements. Here's the expected budget, and here's the expected ROI. And when we select this product and move forward, we're going to look at 3 different options, right, as an example. And that's going to get you past this vendor agnostic component. And this one here, this is really truly is a challenge. Is what is this process to develop a report that's compliant with the government? And what we're seeing out there is there's a lot of folks that are doing these processes already, and they're kind of making it up as they go. And at the same time, they're having a lot of success. So I've got one advisor that's been in the program for 3 months now. He's closed 20 customers out of this. So think about that. 3 months, he's got one salesperson, has closed 20 deals. They did not have a good solid process, which is why they started working with us. And in that time, they've hired 2 more advisors to actually grow and scale this business. And so there's this, this huge opportunity for this business, but if you don't have a process that's going to scale, then you're going to struggle with it. And this is really where digital maturity advisors comes in. That's the core of what we do. So, all right, speaking of that, how can we help? From Sean, I'm going to have you jump on this slide here real quick. Yep. Too. So real quick, and I'll go a little bit more in detail, but digital maturity advisors, we've got this full framework and process for delivering the services. We've got a software for to engage with on those processes, and then ultimately we have a lot of learning opportunities for you, and I'll go into those in a moment. But Sean, if you want to real quickly.
Yeah, thanks for that. And really what Active Demand is, we're a Canadian software company that sells infrastructure to agencies. So how this relates to CDAP is that with the requirement of having a vendor agnostic solution that scales, that allows you to rapidly deploy recipes or solutions for your clients and report on them, our platform is actually sold as infrastructure to agencies. So instead of agencies saying, we're going to be, this is the technology component, it's a case that the agency actually uses the infrastructure to execute on the marketing activities, and there is no need for discussion of vendors at all, because it's a case that's similar to using an accounting system. This is a marketing system for agencies to rapidly deploy, execute, and of course, report on solutions to clients. Wayne?
Okay, great, thanks. And Sean, I think you'll probably go through a little bit more of that here in a moment, right? So, so just to kind of dive in a little bit, I know this is a noisy screen, but I didn't want to take too much of your time. But from a process perspective, as I've been mentioned, we've been doing this for several years, so long before the CDAP program came along. We looked at, what was going on in the enterprise. Digital transformation has been around in the enterprise for a decade at least. We realized it was going to make its way down to the SMB, but there was no framework for doing that. And so we've built this DX delivery framework that's been proven over the past couple of years. We have advisors in Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand, have all been leveraging this framework and fine-tuning it really over the past few years. Once the framework was in place and working, we've built a full set of SOPs, project templates. We've even got meeting agendas for every step of the way. So let's say you go in and you do an assessment with the client. You might have an orientation call with them. Well, we've got the full process for that. Then you have the actual assessment. We've got the full process for that. And then you have, an action plan meeting with the customer where you're reviewing your analysis. Again, the whole entire process laid out for you for that. All of that process has then been basically built into the software platform, purpose-built for delivering these services. And we start with a very high-level CRM module. So if you've already got CRM, that's fine. The CRM component of this is really focused on just the digital adoption plans, but then also developing a proposal for them, running those client meetings, doing the assessments, developing roadmaps, budgeting, vision statements, everything's all built in the software. And then on the learning aspect, while we do have a full online, on-demand training platform, what I've learned over the years, and I've been in the business consulting space for probably a decade now, is that people learn from people. And so we've got workshops that are going on 3 days a week for people at different stages of, some of the workshops are designed for folks that are just initially going through the first few days of training. Others are focused on, sales and marketing strategies or service and delivery strategies. And the really interesting thing about these workshops is most like peer groups or educational opportunities are you're sitting there with other, similar minded people. So you're a marketing company, you're on the phone with other marketing companies. With these workshops, you're on the phone with IT providers, financial people, business consultants, marketing agencies, and but you're all doing the same thing, right? So you're all developing these digital adoption strategies, but coming at it from completely different points of view. And so it's really interesting to see how quickly people learn and take on new concepts that they never even thought of before, because they're coming at it completely different. So really valuable part of our program is this community that's growing rapidly at this point. On that, I will turn it over to you, Sean. I don't know if you want to share your screen.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that. So really, we're a full stack marketing execution platform. So where Lane's business gives you all the tools for project managing a process like this, selling it and managing the client, and the tools for reporting, etc. Our business model is for giving you the tools to actually execute it. So we are a full stack marketing automation platform that allows you to build, if you have, for example, marketing programs or recipes that you're going to be proposing through Lane's process. It's a case that Active Demand would be the tool set for deploying and executing the initiatives, and of course, reporting on the initiatives. So for example, the webinar we're in here today, this is an example of the funnel flow in our technology, showing you literally the process of flow. So this type of communication thing you would be using with your clients to, say option A, option B, option C, as far as programs you're going to execute. This would show the program as well as the measurement tool for deploying. So yeah, and plus a full dashboard and reporting system. And again, this is sold as infrastructure, so your agency uses it without having to sell it as part of the process of engagement with your clients. Eric?
That kind of wraps up the formal presentation side of things. So we can jump into some questions that did come in here. Adam had one. He said it says the CDAP advisor provider application ended last year. I registered under the Toronto company database, but we didn't. What if we didn't make the cutoff for direct government application? I think that's probably for you.
Yeah, so that's not a true statement. Sorry, Adam. The CDAP program was launched on March 3rd this year. Digital Main Street was another program. A lot of the provinces have had separate programs as well. This is a federal program that launched this year. They're still accepting advisors into the program, though with the limited territories, which I think might lead me to the next one. Yeah, so John, well, he left, but anyway, so the limited territories govern who can become an advisor or what SMEs are eligible for funding. And so basically what he's saying is the answer to that is no, there's no limit on SMEs available for funding. Regardless of where their territory is, there's only a limit right now on approved advisors coming into the program. Now, the reason why they did that was, again, because of this large backlog. The expectation is that they're going to, once they get through the backlog here in the fall, reopen it up for other folks to apply regardless of what territory you're in. What we can do is we can help you. If you're interested, we are a certified digital advisor. Provided that you come into our program and go through our training, we can certify you, and then you can deliver the services underneath our umbrella, so to speak. So if you have interest in that, let me know later. Let's see.
All right, and actually I have a couple that came in offline earlier. Lisa was asking, are we able to leverage this funding for our own business? And does it matter if we're in the industry?
Yes, you are. And no, it doesn't. So as long as you meet that eligibility requirements, you're for-profit, 1 to 499 employees, over 500,000 in revenue, you can apply for a grant. Now, you'll need to use an approved digital advisor, and you can't use yourself. So you can become an approved digital advisor, and you can also apply for a grant, but you would have to leverage another approved advisor.
Another one just came in here from Tara. I was told you're creating a portal for applications to log in and complete profiles and applications. I had applied in April, but needed to change one of my responses. Do you know anything about this portal timing and when it'll be accessible?
Yeah, so they had hoped to have the portal out last week. It didn't make it. I know they're working fiercely. We do have regular calls with them. So expect it here very, very soon. And with that, it will allow you to see, your application status, upload any extra materials or that they're asking you for, and hopefully get a little more fast track going through. So.
Excellent. And there was a somewhat related question there from Mohammed. How long does the process take?
Yeah, so unfortunately, to become an approved advisor right now is taking a very long time, meaning 4 months or so. This is because they were really expecting a lot of SMEs, but they weren't expecting so many advisors, and so there's a backlog that they're going through. And if you look at the requirements to be an advisor, a lot more complicated, right? So they need to look at your CV, they need to look at your experience and your ability to develop these plans, and everybody looks totally different, right? Nobody's doing standard plans, and so that approval process is a lot slower. Again, that's something where we can help you out with if you're interested. So.
And then there's another one come in here from Adriel. Do you have any other tips for the approved advisor application?
Adriel, just to clarify, are you asking for tips to get approved, or if you are you guys already an approved advisor and you're looking for some tips there? Tips to get approved.
Yes.
Yeah. There's nothing that's going to speed you up right now. Make sure that you've given them your CV and 2 references and a sample plan, because if you don't, you're going to once they look at your plan, they're going to ask you for that information, and then that's going to delay the process. Our certification takes anywhere from we've seen people, this is from Mohammed, that asked how long our certification takes. We have really what we call a 7-day jumpstart. The idea is after you have 1 lesson a day, you spend 15 to 30 minutes on videos, and then half hour to hour doing homework. And if you can do that 7 days in a row, you've developed a plan that is compliant with the process. We review that plan. As long as you understand all the concepts that are part of our framework, then we can issue you it's really our foundational certification level.
So it doesn't look like there's any more questions. And if you get off the call and then realize there was something you want to ask, you can always reach out to either ActiveDemand or Digital Maturity Advisors. So on behalf of everyone here at ActiveDemand and Lane and Digital Maturity Advisors, I do want to say thank you all for joining us today. We hope you found the presentation worthwhile, and we do hope to see you again in the future. This concludes the presentation for today. Thank you.